Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I rise today to express strong concern and opposition to President Obama's executive amnesty, which I think is clearly flat out illegal and unconstitutional. And Madam President, I announce that because of that, I will be voting no on the confirmation of Loretta Lynch to become Attorney General, because she would directly help President Obama execute that illegal executive amnesty, and she would be actively giving him legal cover, if you will, bad legal reasoning used for PR purposes to further that illegal executive order. And Madam President, I urge all of my colleagues who share my concern about this illegal executive amnesty to do the same. And Madam President, I strongly oppose President Obama's recent action for two reasons. The first is I think it's a horrible policy that's going to take a desperate situation of illegal immigration into this country, a situation that has truly reached crisis proportions, including over the last several months with these new waves, for instance, of illegal minors, and make that desperate situation much worse. Why do I say that? Well, Madam President, it's sort of common sense. If you take a big action that's going to reward folks who have participated in that illegal crossing, what do you think you're going to get? More of it or less of it? You reward behavior, you're going to get more of it. You punish or stop behavior, you're going to get less of it. So just on policy grounds, this major executive action, this illegal executive amnesty for about 5 million illegal aliens in our country, is going to reward that behavior and produce more of it. As we have proved, we don't have adequate protections at the border, an adequate system of enforcement in place either at the border or, just as importantly, at the workplace. So, horrible policy that's going to make the situation worse. But the second concern I have, Madam President, is much, much more fundamental. And it goes to the constitutional authority of the President, the fact that this is clearly beyond his authority because he is acting contrary to statutory law. The Congress, the President have acted together in the past, laid out statutory law about immigration. This is clearly directly contrary to that statutory law, because the President, through his executive action, is not simply saying, I'm going to refuse to prosecute this case or that case, or even a broad category of cases. He's going even further and saying, I'm going to issue work permits to affirmatively say that these people can work legally in our country, to affirmatively say that employers can hire these people, even though that is directly contrary to all sorts of statutory law on the books now. Now, Madam President, every president of the United States has significant powers, obviously. And presidents have the power to fill in the details of legislation when those details are not clear and when they need to do so to properly execute the law. But that's completely different than doing something contrary to statutory law. And that's what President Obama is doing here. Now, several people directly involved in this, including the Supreme Court, including President Obama, ironically, have made this clear. The Supreme Court in the past has recognized that, quote, over no conceivable subject is the power of Congress more complete, close quote, than over immigration. So the Supreme Court has said in all subject matters of law across the board, immigration is squarely in the hands of Congress under the Constitution. And then, as I said, even more interesting, President Obama in the past, before this illegal executive order, has said he doesn't have this power. He's repeatedly acknowledged that in the past before he took this action. He said, quote, "This notion that somehow I can just change the laws unilaterally is just not true," close quote. Furthermore, he said, quote, "For me to simply, through executive order, ignore those congressional mandates would not conform with my appropriate role as president," close quote. That's what he said before when he was defending not taking action before, and he was right. And now he's done exactly what he correctly said before he did not have the power to do. Now, Madam President, as I suggested at the beginning of my remarks, the Attorney General is directly related to this immigration issue and this legal constitutional issue. The Attorney General is the top law enforcement officer of the United States. The Attorney General is the top legal expert for the President and for the federal government. And so I think if we truly believe, as I do, as certainly my Republican colleagues and as several Democrats do based on their public statements, that this executive action is wrong, is unconstitutional, is illegal, we should not confirm an Attorney General who is going to further that illegal, unconstitutional course of action. To me, that is very straightforward. This is not just grabbing someone out of the blue. The Attorney General is directly related to these issues of the constitutional bounds of law, the constitutional lines between the executive and the legislative, and immigration enforcement. Based on that, Madam President, I will vote no, and I will strongly push against the confirmation of Loretta Lynch as Attorney General, and I urge my colleagues to do the same. If you believe that President Obama's actions are illegal or unconstitutional through executive amnesty, then I think you need to reach the same conclusion, because the Attorney General is directly related to these issues of both immigration enforcement and the Constitution. Thank you, Madam President. I yield the floor.